look at what happens with injuries. Hurt myself deadlifting. Deadlifts are shit. Unfortunately, it wasn't the deadlift that hurt you. It was you. You did it.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't hurt everyone else.
Yeah.
It's just you. So it's like, yeah.
And you hear it in the class all the time. Every coach has probably heard it. And it's like, and my response is always, we have a class of 30 people. I can't squat. It hurts my hips. Ask yourself why you're the only person out of 30 people who can't squat. It's like you're asking the wrong question.
Welcome back to the Unbound podcast. This week, Michael and I run through injuries, how to overcome them, and how to shift your mindset to be able to achieve results while being injured. I hope you enjoy the podcast.
So here's one for the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the process of evolution?
Depends which process you're talking about. Are you talking about our evolution?
Just adaptation in general. Let's simplify it.
Okay, adaptation. So like
Things change over time.
and we adapt to them. Of course. I mean, like, look at our bodies. We used to be super hairy gorilla looking. Now we're very not hairy because we wear clothes. And
So at what point do these strength and conditioning principles and our training ideologies become null and void? Do you feel like CrossFit kind of already threw a spanner in the works with that?
a little bit, because then before that, there was the belief that you could not be strong and fit at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, they were correct. You can't be the strongest and the most endurance-based athlete or the most powerful athlete of all time. But what you can be is good at a whole lot of things. And I don't think they really realize that. And the other one, the big one, is the misconception that you can't put on muscle if you do CrossFit because it's got too much cardio, or you can't put on muscle because of cardio, because it eats muscle, catabolizes the body. Oh, watch out.
Become catabolic, not anabolic.
To be honest, like every comp I've been to with a high level like Torian Pro or Down Under or one of the regional semi-finals, is you're surrounded by a lot of deliciously big men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yes, the women are big too.
Not tall.
Not
Let's
tall.
just get this straight.
Just deliciously small men.
So if you're a 5'11" woman, don't ever go there.
No, yeah.
There's another rule: you can't date anyone shorter than you.
Yeah, well, I mean, some women don't like it. But lucky I'm taller than Jess. 1 centimeter. According to our in-body scan, 1 centimeter. So
That's it.
I've got height over her. My neck hurts looking down at her quite a lot. So, but yes, in the sense of like adaptation, like the belief, I guess maybe it was a different one because it was always there, just no one ever did it. Like no one ever put one and one together. Like, oh, we do endurance and lift weights. What like you can't do
And
that.
you also don't, I suppose you don't get to, you look at the way a lot of the studies are done, you're just not going to be able to test anyone for a lifespan.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, as generations change, things are going to change.
Technology increases,
Yeah.
so you got an improvement in like medication.
Yeah.
Like,
Generally, people are taller. I mean, look, if you look now, like women's testosterone levels are going up, men's testosterone levels are going down. So
Yeah.
surely that changes the generalization of our education.
Yeah.
Just food for thought.
Interesting. It is
Yeah.
interesting. All I could say is, like, let's say 100 years down the track, we might have bigger heads and smaller bodies. So maybe we'll train our brain.
And I just feel like from an education point of view, it becomes more important to learn the process of learning
Yeah.
than just memory.
Yeah, exactly. Well, memory
For
is
that
important.
exact reason, because it changes.
But if I memorize everything, Michael, then you can ask me any question, I'll know the answer. I won't explain how the answer works or what it means, but I'll know the answer.
But based on what we just spoke about, at some point, that is no longer the answer. 'cause
well, exactly. It gets
things have
outdated.
changed, yeah.
Yes, or it gets proven that it wasn't even correct in the first place. Anyway, back on topic. So, injury.
3 videos, 1 tangent.
Speaking of adaptation, injury some would consider is your body not being able to adapt to some certain particular movement, a certain training volume, or the inability to perform movement due to injury because, in my case, accidents happen. And you hold onto a bar a little bit too long than expected, and it slips down your back, and you do something unexpected. So you've got an injury, it sucks, your life is over, you can't train anymore, and the girls or guys won't love you anymore.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that? What is your first step? I've got an injury, it just happened. What would you suggest to me right now? Go. Doesn't matter what the injury is.
Doesn't matter what the injury
Yeah,
is.
it doesn't matter. Let's just say it's an acute injury. I haven't broke my leg. I'm not like got a or shoulder. Yeah, we'll say Jess's injury. Jess's is a good injury. She's got an inflamed supraspinatus.
And you don't know that till she goes and gets checked.
Yeah,
but
but
how would you address it on the floor?
Yeah, assuming she got it checked, she'd come back to you the next day. She's a very good client, great client, best. She actually got it checked straight away, which no one ever does. But she did. She didn't just like sit there for 3 months and was like, "Oh, my arm's floppy, but I'll keep trying." So she's come to you, be like, "Michael, this is the issue."
Yeah. So the first thing I normally do with a client is I ask them to show me the results.
Yeah.
Because the conversation they have with the physio, statistically, if the physio tells them 10 things, they remember 3.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting the full story.
Yeah.
It could be, okay, there's a mechanical issue. There's not enough space in the joint. It's just an overuse. But they're details you need to know because how you address things will change.
Exactly.
You also need to know where along they are.
Yeah.
So it's, this has been here for a while. It just flared up because you'd done a bit more gymnastic work that week.
Yeah.
And then that lets you know, okay, we're not really doing anything for a couple of weeks. Okay, we can do some light movements. We stick to the physio stuff. Okay, we don't have anything overhead. So you really need more context. Context is important. I hate removing it.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important in kind of setting up the process to be successful going forward. The second thing I like to look at is their mindset around it.
Yeah.
Their mindset has to be, my role is to try and reframe it to more of a positive, like you just spoke about.
Yeah.
If it's negative, they're most likely going to have a negative result.
Yeah.
So how can we find a way to, sometimes you just have to distract them, make it more of a positive experience through that rehabilitation. And that might be something like, okay, well, she can't go overhead, but she can squat and she can work on her deadlifts. We can work on some squat mechanics.
Yeah.
She might have some proprioception issues with her feet when she's squatting, which is reducing some power on the deadlift and that. Perfect time.
Yeah, great opportunity to work on those little bit of weaknesses that, get touches, but don't get enough touches and don't have enough focus, but now they're the sole focus.
Yeah. It's just make it an opportunity and take advantage of that.
Yeah, and like, once again, you're not going to lose all your gains after a couple of weeks. Like, you're still moving. If you're still squatting and deadlifting, you're still going to put on muscle. You're not going to like lose your arm muscles. Your arms are going to shrivel up and disappear.
And the perfect example is someone breaks their right leg. All right, now they come in and they work some single leg extensions on their left leg. They're going to have a reduction in how much muscle they lose on the leg they broke during that process.
Yeah.
Even though they're not technically stimulating the broken leg.
That's interesting. So they work their opposite leg, but their other leg maintains more muscle.
And you think about the concept of that. Okay, well, I've got a bad right arm. So if I train my left arm, there's going to be some retention. All right, so I'm not going to revert. We spoke earlier about like minimal effective dose.
Yeah.
I'm not going to revert back as much.
Yeah.
Which means I just have less work to do to come back. So rather than it taking me 12 weeks to now rebuild capacity and stuff, it might take me 6.
Yeah, because you're only working one arm a little bit harder. And then at the same time, like if you've ever done an accessory, you do like, I don't know, leg extensions or something. One leg's always a little bit more stronger than the other.
Yeah.
It's very noticeable. But you don't, like, if you're smart about it, you don't let the stronger leg exceed the weaker leg. You work them to the level of the weaker leg. So in that case, you've come back after the injury. Let's say you broke your leg or something. You come back, that broken leg's now all good. It starts training again. That good leg doesn't get to progress for 6 weeks, but the bad leg does. So it ends up bringing them up together.
They catch up, yeah.
You're not going to walk around with one swollen tree trunk and then there's a little stump on the other side. It's not going to be that noticeable.
And it's one of those things like with adaptation. If you've been there before, it's a lot easier to get there again. So if you've been, same thing, if you've been overweight, it goes the other way. So if you've been overweight, you lost weight, it's easier to put on that weight the second time and get there faster.
Yeah.
Which is where the behaviors come in.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's very similar with the injuries. I suppose if you go and you don't do the process properly and develop those good behaviors, you're just going to do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, the men tend to do it 3 times, then they learn.
Yeah.
Women seem to learn the first time.
Because women hate pain and they like to avoid it a lot in the sense of like, they've got a lot of other things going on in their life and a little bit of an arm pain is probably going to be the last thing on their mind and thing they want, whereas men are like, oh, I'm so big and tough. This little injury, it won't bother
alpha,
me. Yeah, I'm so strong.
Don't show pain.
That's it, yeah. Or why is your arm floppy? Just, it's like, mate, you need to get that looked at. Like, you just can't keep avoiding it. Or they keep coming in and like they complain about their injury. They continue to do the movements that hurt it. and they just ignore your advice, and then they're like, oh, I'm injured now, like properly actually screwed. And that's like now their recovery's gone from a 6-week recovery to a 6-month recovery.
And it is a lot to do with trial and error. Like you think about, okay, we've got some stuff we need to do for Jess on her stabilizers through her shoulder. There's about 15 different drills you could do for one muscle.
Yeah.
All right. And it's going to be trial and error to try and find which one she's a high responder to.
Yeah.
And then that's generally going to be kind of like the staple for a little bit.
100%.
So you might get some shoulder isometrics, some banded external rotation isometrics or something, but you're not responding within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's fine. Then you just pivot.
Exactly. You don't have to just keep doing exercises that aren't working for you. It's not like you would do that in the gym. Like we did the...
Especially if you're younger, like you're going to respond faster. You'll know in the first 2 weeks if it's not getting better.
Yeah, exactly. If the pain's still there, there's no improvement in strength or stability in that arm or leg or whatever it is, then obviously you're not seeing it. So what you're saying is, so the first thing they'll do is they'll come to you and then you will ask for what their physio or what their physio has given their result as. This is exactly what they have. This is what I've recommended to do. These are the exercises that they can and can't do. Then from there, you've got them to start those exercises and to pivot their focus from what they can't do to what they need to work on, but they still can.
Yeah.
What would you say would be the next step from there? They've made a little bit of progress on the injury. It's still there. They've had a few more movements open up to them. What would you say to them at that point?
As long as the physio has given them an all clear to start moving back through other movements, it's getting them back on pretty much as soon as you can safely, the movement that probably hurt them.
Yeah.
There's an element of fear that comes with something when you hurt yourself on something. It's just natural. If you hurt yourself on a back squat, I mean, most coaches have probably tested this with someone. I hurt my knee back squatting. So squatting is bad. All right. Then you go move them to a goblet squat. Do you still have pain? No. And it's like, okay, so there's a relationship with the barbell back squat that's negative that we need to address.
Yeah.
Now, it might be something a little bit like deeper, where maybe they just have better foot stability when they squat with the kettlebell. But just for this example, let's just say everything's the same.
Yeah.
Right. They just have a negative relationship with that barbell.
Yeah, because they had that injury. It's in their head.
They've avoided it for so long.
Yeah, and they're just not willing to go back to it, even though like it might be the thing that's going to help them the most because it is one of those big compound movements.
And you need to work with them, get their feedback, ask them what feels tight, what feels uncomfortable, like, and rebuild their confidence on that movement.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time that transfers into everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where you correct their mechanics at the same time. You're going to have work them lighter. You're going to add some tempo stuff. You're going to add some pause work. Perfect opportunity to just tweak some of those other things.
Cool. So you've got an injury, and the best way to firstly fix it is don't just keep screwing it over.
Yeah.
So if you hurt your shoulder, in Jess's case, don't keep doing movements that are going to aggravate it. I always say the 2-week rule is a good idea if you're unsure. If it's nothing like immediately painful, a bit of a niggle, it's giving you a bit of like issues, but it's not enough that you're going to have to like be hospitalized or something or have surgery done on you. Give it 2 weeks. If it's no improvement in pain or even worsens, it starts to worsen within that 2 weeks. That's when you should seek professional help. Comes back with a result, and then you start following the program and commit to the program. That's probably another thing I always see. They get given exercises.
And you got to follow up as a coach. Like it's our responsibility to follow up.
Yeah.
So people are going to get lazy, and like you're saying, they might not do it every 2 days or every 3 days like they've been advised to.
Yeah.
Just ask them the question.
Yeah.
Have you done your rehab?
And then even just be like, okay, well, you want to come do class today? In the warm-up, rehab is going to be your option. Or in the cool-down, I want to see you doing those exercises, because then at least you can visually see, yes, they've done it this day. And then, like, you know, it doesn't make it feel like they have to go out of their way to do extra stuff when they might only be confined to their 1 hour session. So then you got the results back. You've been working your exercises. You've been working on other things you might not have been able to work on previously, or you have been struggling that you've been neglecting. And then you've improved on that injury, and you're now looking at going forward. You're doing good exercises. You're actually trying to reintroduce the movement that initially caused the injury in the first place, and you're building that confidence.
Yeah.
Anything else on injuries? Anything else that you would advise?
Your warm-ups are probably going to change.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not a set and forget thing with an injury. Once you've had an injury, the biggest precursor for a re-injury is that previous injury.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries. But you need to. So if you ask me what the hardest part of programming it's a warm up.
Yeah.
Everyone should have their own warm up.
Yeah.
Reality is that's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
There is an element of responsibility that comes. I generally like to use the rule of training age. So once someone's kind of like 2 years into their training, they should be starting to build some awareness around this.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, I need to work some hip internal rotation before I squat. So a duck walk that's programmed for general ankle prep might not be something they should be using.
Yeah.
They might need to go and work some internal rotation on the hips to open them up to get a better position.
Yeah.
And you just need to learn these things as you go.
Yeah.
So pay attention. Like, okay, trial and error. This really helped me with my squat. Put it in the memory bank.
Yeah.
Coaches, good coaches, will let you do that. They will say, okay, we have 7 general movements in this general prep. You can take out this one and add your personalized work.
Yeah. Or even if they see you do it, they might ask you like, oh, what are you doing? And you'll be like, oh, just let them know like, hey, like, you know, I've had this injury, or like I've had this issue with my squatting. I'm really tight in my hips. This seems to really help. Most of them would just be like, yeah, cool. You keep doing that. Like, because 90% of people don't even warm up properly as it is.
And don't save your shit for the warm up.
Yeah. That's my one. I always wait for the briefing, and I'm like, I could just go now and then just catch up with someone in the class later. But no, I feel bad. I listen to the entire briefing, then I go do a shit. And then, oh, well, look at that. I always use the Stairmaster excuse, the excellent excuse. We have stairs here. We got to climb up to go to the toilet. And I just say, yeah, I hit 40 seconds on the Stairmaster. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, save your shit for before you get there, or
Yeah.
during the briefing.
I think it all just ties into, unfortunately, you can't oversimplify things because things aren't just simple.
Yeah,
And you do need to take some ownership and pay some attention.
exactly.
And with that comes some responsibility. If you look at what happens with injuries, hurt myself deadlifting, deadlifts are shit. Unfortunately, it wasn't the deadlift that hurt you. It was you. You did it.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't hurt everyone else.
Yeah.
It's just you. So it's like, yeah.
And you hear it in the class all the time. Every coach has probably heard it. And it's like, and my response is always, we have a class of 30 people. I can't squat. It hurts my hips. Ask yourself why you're the only person out of 30 people who can't squat. It's like you're asking the wrong question.
Yeah, it's like, why can't I squat? Why is the squat causing
What am
me
I
pain?
doing differently that means I'm the one with hip pain when no one else is?
Yeah, exactly. That's probably a really good question to ask, even just in general. Why do I have this pain? Why don't other people? What can I do about it?
Yeah, because there's always going to be an example that you can learn from.
Yeah.
And it's just taking that opportunity to ask the right question.
Speaking of asking the right questions, be sure to leave your questions in the comments down below. Thank you for listening to the Unbound podcast. We'll see you next time.